part 2. So now we're going to make the background. I've put one of the sheets of thin plastic on an old towel. The older, the rougher, the better. Taking your light blue-green and your dark blue-green, divide that into 3 equal pieces. Keep your hands far apart, it'll be easier. Like that. Do the same with this, and taking then one of your sections, we can start by laying your first layer, and this will be half in the light blue-green and half in the dark blue-green. So I've laid my fibres in a horizontal direction, the lower half in the darker colour, upper half in the lighter colour, and now I'm just going to quarter turn this and repeat this process, and I will use one of those thirds and do the same, trying to keep the 2 halves separate at this point, but you must make sure that you don't have an empty gap where the 2 colours join. So this is what the second layer should look like, with a dark side and a light side, and then you can quarter turn again, and we're going to start exactly the same way as we did with the first layer, but don't use all of your 2 colours up. You might want to use them a bit later again as we add different colours. I've done a very thin layer of the 2 blue colours, and now I'm going to start mingling a little bit of the other colours. There's the grey-green from earlier. You should have a little bit left. Can you see how thin I'm laying it? And then we can go back and lay a little bit of that original light blue-green, and you can build the colours up. This takes quite a long time, and you don't want to end up with stripes. You could also introduce a little bit of the lilac colour. And tear bits off if you like. It looks particularly stunning mixed with the cornflower. Have a play around and always break these colours up with your other colours so that you don't actually get any stripes. You can do the same on the lower layer, introducing the slightly brighter shade, and let these mix and mingle together. If you use really thin amounts, even if you don't like what you've done, you can then go over it and break it up with another colour. Last of all, when you're nearly completed, we can add this very dark watercolour, which will lend a kind of shadow to you when we place your flower later on. So now I've made my background, and you can see I'm just adding small amounts. I've put the very darkest colour last of all, with tiny patches of the blue and the lilac, and mingled all the colours together. Now I'm ready to put my flower on, the one we prepared earlier, and it's really important that you don't put it too near the edges, otherwise it's difficult to felt on. And then we can build up the picture cut out your lily leaves and we can assemble it. So I've assembled the picture. I have cut out some small oval shapes and put them in clusters. You don't want to over cluster your picture because it's nice to see the background. I've put the lily pads in place with the flower. I've also added one extra, just a bit from the edge there. I've made the bud, and what we'll do is we'll cut a little bit off the end like that, and then we can put it under there like that, so it looks like it's coming from underground. And next I'm going to show you how to make the tiny buds of flowers in the distance. So now I've got some of the pink yarn and the white silk, and I'm going to fuse them together by pulling them apart and then rejoining them. And these will make the buds. You have to do it several times to get the colours to really fuse well. There, they're beginning to... And then just take a pinch of this, like that, screw it up in your fingers, and then you can place around here. You can also do this with the grey and the pink silk to get a mixture. I've done a bit earlier. Just tear them apart. If you need to use scissors, do that. I'm happy with the way it looks now, and I'm ready to put the soap and water on it. Just dribble the water on, and you can adjust things. If things move, you can adjust like that flower. If you're very gentle. So I've got this wet, I've put the thin plastic on top, and I'm patting it down. I really advise that you pat this for about 10 minutes like this, quite gently. If we don't do this, you risk moving all your carefully placed flowers and petals. After you've pressed down like this for 10 minutes, we can peel the thin plastic away, the top one. Don't whip it away, just carefully peel it off. And then replace that with your bubble wrap, with the bubbles facing downwards. Press that down a couple of times, and then we can turn it over, and then if we quarter turn it, we can put a bit of extra water on top like that, and we can start to rub it like this. And I suggest we do 2 minutes in this direction like this, and then quarter turn, 2 minutes, another quarter turn, 2 minutes, and your last quarter turn, 2 minutes. It might not be quite done by then. You'll have to pay some extra attention where your flower is because it is very thick. You maybe could do some circles like this. I've spent 8 minutes doing this rubbing, and also a few extra minutes rubbing in different directions where the flower is. And if I pinch it, it's all matted. So we can turn it over and have a look at the other side. So you should be able to lift it up by itself. If it doesn't feel firm, just do a few extra minutes. Just be a bit rougher with it this time. And there you are, your picture is ready to rinse and dry. When your picture's dry, remove the thin plastic that was under these petals, snip the fibres away rather than pulling, and then with your felting needle you can then start to define the shapes of the petals like this. You can also flick this yellow a little bit higher if you need to. Take your time over this. Any bits that you have wandered away a little bit, you can make these a little bit shorter, for instance. Just poke at this angle like this. I hope you've enjoyed watching my demonstration, and now you're going to make your kit, and when you've finished it, maybe you'd like to try one of my other Artfelt kits. They're all available from my website www.artfelt.co.uk. Goodbye.